Welcome to the Insider's Guide, the show where we explore how young people can break into exciting careers, whether that's in tech, sports, or entrepreneurship. Today, we're diving into the business side of this world. I'm Aahan.
And I'm Aditya. Today we're joined by Coach JP, the founder of Prolific Hoops, a premier basketball coaching and development service helping athletes level up their game. Coach JP has over 30 years of experience of competitive basketball playing, experience of 11 years and 11 years of coaching children too. In addition to coaching basketball, he also had 15 years as a fitness coach.
Whether you're an athlete, aspiring entrepreneur, or someone just curious about what it takes to build a successful service-based business, today's episode is for you. Coach JP, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
So how this works is we're going to split up into different sections. So the first section is guest background and journey. So to
Okay.
start things off, Coach JP, if you could explain your education growing up and what knowledge and importance it provided you for your future endeavors.
Oh man. Okay, where do I start? Education. Let's start as early as college. So I went to San Francisco State University. My major is was Asian American Studies, and I minored in business entrepreneurship. And the reason why I was drawn by Asian American Studies was I grew up in a small town, Modesto, California. It wasn't a lot of Filipinos at the time, so just being curious about my background a little bit more, people, my background in America. I went to San Francisco State where it was a lot more diverse, and then I was undecided, and then I was like, you know what? Let me get into this Asian American studies, kind of get to know my culture a little bit more, other Asian cultures as well. And then I fell in love with some of the classes, so I just majored in it, and I wanted to have something on the side where I could have a little bit of a cushion if if Asian Americans there was no jobs with Asian American studies, so I minored in business, and it kind of helped out because being in the business field and at the same time majoring in something I enjoyed, I really had fun in college. So yeah, that's pretty much my educational background.
Definitely. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, let's talk about your first introduction to business. When did business and entrepreneurship first become a part of your life? What were your initial thoughts on this experience?
Um, let's see, man. Great question. I uh, I had a lot of jobs after college. A lot of jobs that I predominantly didn't like. I just kind of just went job to job just to kind of figure it out what I like. But I never really enjoyed it. Just working for people. Not that I'm saying that working for people is bad. But some people just don't have that personality where I could sit on a desk all day and work and, you know, go to a meeting and the VP is like talking about what the next sales are goals and stuff and everybody's clapping their hands like we care. It just wasn't me, man. I just didn't care. um so basically I was like, okay, so I'm working. What was my first job? I was working at Enterprise Rent a Car after college. First job, I was renting cars. And I was like, man, this thing sucks, like I just didn't like working for this company. So I got into this sales job at this tech company. That didn't work out. I didn't like it, and then it was just kind of like I was just going jobs to jobs. And I was like, you know what? Let me go just be honest with myself and what do I really like doing? So at the time I really like working out. I like fitness stuff. So I got a little part-time gig at this gym in Redwood City. It was called what was it called? Powerhouse Gym. There was a is Craigslist still do we still have Craigslist now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
Does that
Yeah.
still exist? Okay, so
yeah.
I was looking for a part-time job on Craigslist with fitness, and there was this post, and it said boot camp instructor. Boot camp instructor will train for the instructor. Well, no experience needed. I was like, wait a minute, I like working out. So I was like, I let me try this out. Let me be a boot camp instructor. So I applied for the job, and then They interviewed me, they trained, I got the job, they interviewed me, and then I got the job for a boot camp class instructor for aerobics. And then I was like, okay, cool, this is cool. I'm teaching classes and stuff. And then some of the people, the clients that were coming in for that boot camp, uh, those boot camp classes, they were coming at me and they were like, "Hey JP, do you want to train us individually on the side? We're looking for a personal trainer. We'll pay you on the side." So I was like, "Oh wow, cool." Like, yeah, I'll train while I'm teaching boot camp. I'm teaching these clients on the side. So I had this fitness business going on. So it was kind of like my first introduction to, wait a minute, I could do this on my own on the side, right? Fitness. I enjoyed it. Um, so yeah, that was my first introduction to becoming, I would say, self-employed type of stuff, like where I'm working for myself. I was a boot camp instructor and a personal trainer on the side.
Got it. So moving forward, like onto that route, so you went from being employed to being self-employed. So
Mm.
one of the biggest challenges in starting a business is actually starting from ground up with nothing, no resources at all. So Coach, when you were growing up, did you have support systems like relationships, financial access, or guidance to help you figure things out on your own?
Yeah, I did. It was, where I don't come from a lot of money growing up. I came from a single parent. My mom and my mom was, my parents were divorced. My mom was a single parent. She worked two jobs as a nurse, so she did her best. But nothing was, I would say there was no handouts, right? Um, and I think that's what really built me as an entrepreneur, is that I wanted more in life. I wasn't, we didn't have the fancy stuff growing up. We didn't have access to like the nice things. Like I was wearing, I don't know if you guys know what Pro Wings are. I didn't, here's the thing. I didn't know what Jordans and Nikes were in fifth grade until a kid made fun of my shoes and was like, "Hey, why aren't you wearing Jordans?" And I was like, "What are Jordans?" I was wearing shoes from Payless. So that was my background. My mom was a single parent, and that's from her being a single parent and from us not having a lot. That's what gave me a lot of motivation to, okay, I gotta fend for my own. There's not a lot of support, so it's either I gotta make something happen. But my mom she was really helpful as well too.
Definitely. Okay, so the next section would be the main discussion. So how this is split up into four different sections. So we have
Yep.
building the business, skills that matter, industry insights and tech trends, and finally opportunities for high schoolers. So our
Okay.
first section would be building the business, which Aditya can get started with.
Coach, you have built a
Yep.
vast business, Prolific Hoops.
hmm
When was the moment where you realized that there was a real market for Prolific Hoops, and like how was the idea created?
So the idea was created by me just training my daughter and my nieces when I lived in Fremont. So it was a thing where, again, I was doing stuff on the side. I was trying to get paid as a fitness instructor, and then next thing you know, I'm a basketball coach. I love basketball. Played basketball, for many years, and I started teaching my daughter when she was about 4 years old, along with my nieces. They were like 3, 4 year olds, and then while I was teaching them at the park, people were approaching me at the park and was like, "Could you train my kids too? My kids is 5 years old. My daughter's 7. My son is 8." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then it kind of just grew from there, word of mouth, right? I was just there was no ad, I wasn't doing any advertising. It was kind of just like word of mouth. People were just referring me to friends and family. And then when we moved to Mountain House, we were lucky enough to win the lottery to purchase the house here in Mountain House. And this is during COVID time. Um, and I was I think I was selling chips at liquor stores, commuting to the Bay Area. And we had just purchased the house, and I was commuting every Monday. And I told my wife, I said, "Babe, I don't want to do this. I said, I think I'm just going to coach basketball or train people again." And she was just like, "Hey, you better make this work because um, we have a mortgage. You know, this is you don't got time to be quitting jobs and stuff. But I was like, dude, you know, at some point in time, guys, I'm gonna change subject a little bit. But if you guys ever feel like a job is not for you and you want to pursue something, you know, you guys are young enough to go for it. You know what I mean? Like, just the worst thing you guys can do is look at yourself when you're 50 years old, 60 years old, and being like, man, what if I just did that you know, that company that I've always wanted to do, or you know, that business I always wanted to start. What if? There's a lot of what ifs, right? So that was in the back of my head, and dude, I just could not commute to the Bay Area every Monday, just miserable, and then coming home on the commute and being stuck in traffic for 2 hours. So I started training kids here in Mountain House, and then COVID was being lifted, right? And then as our community, this new community here, at the time when I bought this house, it was a new build, and the neighborhoods were just being built, you know, so the houses were just being built. So I went up to this one school, which where Coach Aahan is, where Aahan helps me coach sometimes. And I went up to some of the kids, and I had like this little list, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want a free trial class? Just come tomorrow. Bring your parents." So yeah, there's some kids brought their parents the next day, and I started training them on a free trial class, and then you know, and then all of a sudden it was just like parents signed up, word of mouth came, and the community was growing. Houses were being built, people were moving into the neighborhood, and word of mouth came, and then it just started growing. And then we just after that, it just started. You know, I did a little bit of advertising on Facebook on the community with word of mouth, and then it just grew. It just kind of organically grew. I didn't do a lot of advertising. It was just really good coaching. I think, like, if you guys are ever going to go into business, just always make sure that you guys take care of your customers first. You know, be fair, be honest. Don't always go about trying to make money. You know, make your product, your service very valuable, and that's it. And then as you know, like I said, as the community grew, my business grew with it.
Definitely, it's a great example. That's a great like description, coach. So, big thing, as you said, was as the community grows, you also want your business to grow. So, there's
Yep.
a famous quote actually by Peter Drucker that says, "The purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer." So, I just wanted to know, what do you think about that quote, coach?
Say that again. The best way is to keep a customer. Say it again.
The purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer.
Yeah, man, it's that is the most important thing. Your customer is the when I worked at Enterprise Rent a Car, okay. One thing about Enterprise Rent a Car, what they taught me was customer service is number one, right? Without your customers, there's no business. And word of mouth is more important than you know some flyer that you're gonna post up and you know you're attracting customers, because word of mouth really is the best marketing, right? It's because you've already established trust with your customers, and then they're bringing in family, they're bringing in friends, so you got to make sure that you honor that, and then you live up to that service. So yeah, customers is the most important thing in a business. It's not the equipments, it's not the marketing, it's your customers, man. You got to take care of your customers. But you won't ever have happy customers. It won't ever be perfect. There's gonna be some that are gonna leave you, have problems with you, and go to the next competitor. But that's fine. That comes with it.
That's great to know, coach. Like create a great insight with like keeping your customers and also just like, doing what you're passionate for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which brings us to the next question. What was the well, we kind of answered this question already, like your biggest challenge in launching prolific hoops and like what solutions you came up to like address these challenges.
The biggest challenge was it's more of a leap of faith. I think for me, it was just like I didn't know. I just knew that it had to it had to work because I didn't want to work anymore. I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. It was I had done so many different type of jobs where it was the same pattern. It wasn't the jobs, it was just me personally. So the biggest challenge for Prolific Hoops was I just had to do it. Whether if it wasn't gonna work in Mountain House, I was gonna make it work in Livermore. I was gonna, I wasn't gonna give myself the option to quit. It was make it or break it. I was completely dedicated. I was, I was gonna grow it regardless. So that was the biggest challenge. Just how do I do that? How do I, just grow it, provide good coaching, make a sales call where it made sense to the parent and to that parent how our program would work for their kids. So I had to in a way sell it and at the same time, provide that service, with what I basically promised the parent. And from there it just kind of just grew. So
Perfect. Thank you for explaining that, Coach. So moving on to more of like an investment side. So you currently have some investments in fast food restaurants, for example, Aditya's
yeah,
Hot Chicken in New York, and real estate investments as well. So what do you think the importance is of diversifying these different investments?
man, that's everything, man. Like when you're young, you think like, oh, I got time and stuff. But I think investing your money is going to give you guys a lot of peace of mind as you get older, right? You guys, as we get older, we won't have the energy to work as much. So you guys want to really diversify your portfolio, in terms of investment, real estate, stocks, savings, and all that stuff. You guys don't want to put your eggs in one basket. You want to have a bunch of um, incomes flowing, because you won't have the same energy as when you're 30, when you're 60. So you don't want to be 65 and you're still, you're a waiter, right? Trying to like get some tips. You want to save now and your investments where it compounds, and by the time you're in your 60s, you guys were frugal, you guys were smart with your money. By the time you guys retire, you have like a few million in the bank. Yeah, so you're living comfortably, right? And then at the same time, you have all this property you guys can rent. The people are paying you guys rent. Um, and then you guys have your stock. You can sell your stocks, get that, and then reinvest it. So yeah, investing is important, man. Yeah, just as you guys get older, that's you're gonna definitely need to invest. Invest now while you're young.
Good answer, Coach. Moving on to the next section, which is skills that matter. So running a business, it's not all just about numbers. It's also about the actual individual. So what are some soft skills that have helped you learn that you've learned through marketing, customer retention, and other experiences overall?
You can't take anything personally. You can't be sensitive. So if you lose a customer, it happens, right? Like sometimes on my field, if you lose a customer, it's because let's say the kids outgrow the program. A parent finds somewhere that's cheaper, or um, what else? Some parent doesn't like the way we coach. So you can't be sensitive, but at the same time, you got to still make sure that when you do hear a complaint from your customers, you got to fix it, right? You got to adapt to your customers' needs, listen to your customers. That's the most important thing. Always listen to your customers.
For sure, yeah. Like your customers are like basically your entire business, right? And like it's
Yeah,
very important to keep them happy and stuff, right?
keep them happy. And then what's going to happen is you may lose them for a bit, and then they go off to the competitor, and then they see that you did your due diligence, you were organized, you were very you were more organized, your stuff is more polished. You may be a little bit more expensive, but they'll see in the end that you pay for what you get, right? So they normally come back because they see like, oh, if they go to the competitor, it's a little cheaper, and they see like, oh man, what is this? What are we paying for? And then all of a sudden they just come back to you. Or some of the kids that leaves, they're on vacation, they normally come back. Just make sure that you guys are always providing like good customer service. just so if you ever lose that customer, like they don't leave on a bad note. Just because they're gone doesn't mean they can't refer you, right? They can always refer you to a friend that is looking for basketball, that is looking for housekeeping, that is looking for a car wash, right? Like it's just anything. So you always got to just make sure that it's customer service, man. Just got to always provide great customer service.
It's great to hear, Coach.
Yep.
Moving on to our next question. A highly important aspect of B2C companies is trust. How do you build trust with athletes and parents, especially when you're trying to when you're trying to turn full-time clients into long-term customers?
How to build trust is you don't sugarcoat anything. Just be honest. Don't sugarcoat. Don't overly promise anything. Let's say I get a call and this kid, his dad is 4 foot tall, 4 foot 5, and then you're promising the parent like, yeah, I can turn him into the next Kobe Bryant. I can turn him to the next LeBron James. And then next thing you know, his kid is not even making the basketball team because his kid's like 4 foot tall. So never overpromise. That it's just let them know that this is what we provide. We're gonna build whatever your service is. We're gonna provide A, B, and C. This is how we're gonna do it. This is the benefit of it, and then from there, just make sure that you're hitting those key points, what you promised them, and then be just be transparent as possible. Don't overly promise things, because the minute that you overpromise stuff and then you don't fulfill that promise, your name, your credibility goes down, right? So starting a business, man, your name is the most important. Your customer and your credibility. So never overpromise.
Yep. That's a great point to highlight, Coach. So moving on, another very important soft skill is networking.
Mhm.
So how did you start building your network, and what advice would you give to people who feel intimidated about growing their network, especially when they're first starting out?
Uh, I think with a network, you have to find people that have the same vision as yours, who sees your vision. Because networking means you can either partner up with somebody on a different venture, or you could, if you're adding, let's say, if I wanted to add another service, like Prolific Hoops is basketball, right? For example, and then I wanted to start, let's say I start, because I also have a soccer academy, but I'm not as skilled in soccer or in the soccer world as I am in basketball. So I had to network and find people in business who are more skilled with soccer than I am. And then from there, you can either invest in that business and then let that network, those partners, run the business, and then you can just go from there. So networking could be a bunch of stuff, but it's really important because you can't do everything yourself, right? Sometimes you just don't have enough money to venture out and do a new project. You need networking to get investors, to get partners that know a little bit more about that new field that you're taking on. So when you guys are networking, you want to make sure that it's the right people. You want to make sure that they are honest, and that like they see the same vision as you do.
It's great to hear, Coach. Um, Moving on to our last question for the skills that matter section. How do you handle failures or setbacks, both on court and on the business world?
Failures is I think failures is good. Failure is good. I think because whenever you fail, you learn certain things, what you did wrong, right? And then you can always transcend it to fix it, pretty much fix it, and then it becomes a success. So failure is always good to me. Losing is good. Failure is a great teacher on how to succeed later on, right? Because if you're always succeeding, you know what I mean? Like that's good and all, but that's not gonna happen. You gotta fail in order to get better. You have to lose in order to win. You gotta, because these things are like, these are little teachers. if with failure. So nobody likes failing. I don't like failing. I don't. But I think nobody's really a failure until you completely quit on something, right? So every time you fail or make a mistake out of something, just tweak it and then just get better. But you know, failing is good. So you fail in business all the time, man. Like I've done stuff. I've made some stupid investments before where it didn't work out well, lost some money, and you learn from it. So failure is good.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Failure is like very important.
Yeah, it's
But
just a learning experience. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's good,
Yep.
man.
yep.
Okay.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So when
Yeah.
it does happen, you guys don't be disappointed because you guys are in high school, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
High school, man. So man, you guys are gonna come relationship, business, women. Yeah, you guys are gonna. It's and then you're gonna go. If you find the right girl, I'm gonna use relationship as an example. Let's say you break up with your first love. Now in your second one, your second relationship, that failure, you kind of know what kind of girl you're gonna want, right?
Yep.
You don't want no crazy girl or no girl that's too attached to you. Certain things. That last relationship just propelled you to the next, to a better relationship, right? And then let's say you break up on this next relationship. Now you go to this relationship and you're like, oh, perfect woman, time to propose. So it's the same thing. Relationships, business, failures. It's just gonna it's steps to just getting it right. That's it.
Yep. Definitely, coach. So moving on to more of like a tech side, a tech point of view to business,
Yeah.
technology in today's world is like it's up there. It's the main
Mm.
thing. So are there any ways where you use technology to help your business grow? And if so, how?
Yeah, for me, I think like I'm getting to that point now because like right now I'm gonna be shopping around for a facility. So tech wise, I think for the amount of kids that we're gonna be having once the facility is built, I think technology for sure is gonna come, right? Like we're gonna really need um, some marketing tech stuff, some software billing stuff for our billing platform. We have to get some kind of um, our social media got to be up, right? Because now we're trying to scale because now we're talking about not just Mountain House. We're gonna be trying to take on the whole entire Central Valley with just this new facility. So yeah, I think technology is something that we'll be looking forward to. But uh, for right now, we're definitely going to be using softwares for the billing platform. I think that's the most important part with tech is making sure that we have, like a good software where it's organizing the classes, organizing billing, organizing the payroll with coaches, HR stuff in our line of business.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Moving on to our next question, where do you see the basketball training and sports industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years? Will it be like much different from the next generation of trainers and athletes than it is now?
Yeah, I think so. I think as long as there's professional sports like basketball, or we'll just use like let's say cricket, basketball. As long as it's out there and it's promoted, marketed, it's popular. Sports in general is always going to be around. Um, and sports is a great platform for kids to build confidence, build character, and stay healthy, stay fit. I think the kids nowadays, I have kids and they're growing up in this like technology generation where it's iPads and phones, and instead of playing outside, they just want to stay home and watch, scroll on TikTok or stuff like that, man. And I think, but that's what sports does. Sports, you know, it helps you stay fit, builds character, builds friendships, um, teaches lessons about winning and losing. So Yeah, sports is going to be around for a bit. As long as, parents are seeing that their kids are becoming obese and they need to do something active, sports is going to be around.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. So we're gonna move on to our next section, which is opportunities for high school students.
Yeah.
Coach, what opportunities do you provide for high school students passionate for sports and wanting to commit their time to your business?
I, with high school kids, even with Aahan here, he started as a volunteer coach, right, for his volunteer hours with us. And then he completed some hours, and then he was good enough. He learned how to properly coach. He learned how to coach for our classes, and with my expectations, of course. And now he works. He works part time with us as a coach and gets paid. So that's what I think. That's what we provide. We provide work experience for kids, and and coaching is it's tough. It's not like working at a boba spot, where you're just in the back making boba. You're learning how to become a leader, right? Where you're you're teaching kids, you're communicating. So I think the coaching position that we offer um, really teaches the high school kids about being ready for um, like a professional job in the market, in the industry that you're going to be in, because it's building a lot of experience in terms of communication, hard work, professionalism, articulation. You got to be able to communicate. So those are the things that we provide with the coaching, part of Prolific Hoops.
Definitely. So moving on to the final question for this section. So coach, your daughter actually attends UC Irvine, one of the most competitive colleges across the entire world, with an acceptance rate of around 20%. So what is some advice that you give to her as a high school student that you give to high school students in today's world?
Uh, Great question, Coach Aahan. So I tell my daughter to have options with school, right? So I think parents nowadays always we want our kids to be like, all right, go get a job, go get a good education, get a job, save your money, the traditional stuff. But for me, come as a with an entrepreneurship background, I tell my daughter, I always tell her, I said, look, go get a degree where you're gonna make at least guaranteed after college a six-figure income. But at the same time, what do you like doing? What is your passion? Okay, so meaning while you're going to college, also maybe develop like a side business, whether it's, I don't know, having a podcast like you guys, something growing a podcast or selling jewelry, something like that, where if you don't like if you don't like the stuff that or the job that you get out of after college, you can at least grow this business that you're passionate about, and the next thing you know, that's your source of income. So the advice I always tell my daughters is, go for your dreams, but at the same time, make sure that you have a backup plan. Meaning, have a doctorate degree, right? Become a doctor first before before you go in and become an actress. Nothing wrong about chasing your dreams, but just make sure have a good backup plan. That's the advice I give them. But I just don't give them the option to just be like, oh no, that's not gonna work out. Don't go into business. It's not it's not gonna work out. No, yeah. I always tell them, I say, go for your dreams, but at the same time have a backup plan. And the same thing with you guys too. Like, yeah, you guys are probably gonna go to school and stuff, and then one day you guys are gonna be working at that desk or whatever job you guys are doing, and then you're gonna be like, man, this job sucks. I wish, let me try this. But don't be scared to try stuff, because that could be prolific hoops. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're like, your own CEO, your own boss. And there's nothing more fulfilling than working 13 hours, but it's your company a day. This I work 7 days a week, but this to me it's like I'd rather work 7 days a week than work 40 hours a week with for somebody that is holding meetings and I'm just like, yeah, I'm clapping my hands, but I don't really care. Yeah, so
Now we're on to our final section, which is rapid fire Q&A.
Mhm.
So just to say the first thing that comes to your mind when we ask these. Aahan, you want to go with the first one?
So starting off, what is a favorite investment that you currently own?
Days Hot Chicken.
Okay. One book you'd recommend to aspiring business students?
Um, the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone.
Okay. I'll give that a read. And then what's your morning routine looking like?
Morning routine looking like fix my bed. First thing first. Fix your bed. Cause like yeah, just fix your bed. That starts your day off really good.
All right, moving on. If you're neither a coach nor in the sports industry, what would you be doing?
Ooh, I would be a food tester, tasting food, vlogging while food tasting.
Sounds very exciting. On our final question though, describe your coaching style in 3 words.
Strict, very strict.
It's gotta be 3 words, coach.
Oh, strict. Okay. No nonsense.
No nonsense, strict. Okay.
Strict, no
Okay, okay,
nonsense.
okay.
Okay, so last but not least, moving on to our closing thoughts and advice. So, Coach JP, before we wrap up, what is one final piece of advice you'd give to any high schooler who's curious about entering the business world but doesn't know where to start?
Start with your passion, man. Like, what are you good at? Start from there. You don't just go into a business just because you hear that people are making money off of it, because you're not gonna have the passion for it. It's good to have, you know, just just go for it. Go for what you're good at. What do you like doing? Start from there, and then from there, figure out if there's a market for it, and then how you can articulate it to your first customer, and just go from there, and then see how you can scale it. And one thing also to get a to start a business is like how can you scale it to where like you can train people to do your job, and you can just kind of just watch it and then grow it from there. You don't want to create a business for more work for yourself. You want to create a business to create work for others.
It's great to hear, Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Coach JP.
Yeah, thank you.
Your journey shows that building a business takes passion, persistence, and purpose. And it's never too early to get started. Thank you for sharing all your like anecdotes, your thoughts, your just like life experiences. They've been pretty inspiring.